Hey everyone, welcome to Pommyinoz. It's Pommy's Ponderings, and as always in Pommy's Ponderings, while the footy season's on, we dwell on my team. There will be a special Pommy Pondering coming up in the week because my mighty Rangers play Aberdeen tonight. But that being said, if you are new around here, please drop a like, please subscribe, it does mean the world to me. We've just gone over 270, which is absolutely bob on, as we say in the north of England. There's a new phrase for you. So, where do we start with Carlton? It's a tough one, eh? I hate doing these after a loss. It was a good start, and any time after the first quarter, it was insipid, to say the least. We were beaten all around the park. I've got to say that around the ball, it was an absolute domination fest with Tom Mitchell, Warple and O'Meara having just a complete time of their lives in the hub. Isaac Smith was as free as a bird, wasn't he, as well? He really damaged us on the outside. And it's a tough one to take, really, because this side is so bipolar at times. Like, how you can put in a quarter one performance and they adjust is just beyond me in the realms of professional sport. It feels like at times we're devoid of ideas when the pressure comes on to us. We look really good when we're, punching, kind of like a boxer. We look really good when we're on the front foot, but when we're on the back foot, we look like butterbean. And it's just them intensity efforts. It's them sticking them tackles. It's having a little bit of grind, a little bit of desire, and the decision making just goes to pot as well with our boys when the pressure's applied. Like, you don't often see Cripper. I mean, when do you see a key forward like Harry McKay handball off to an inside midfielder to kick a snag? Just doesn't happen anywhere else. If that was a Lynch or a Rewalt or a Cameron, they would not be looking to offload that. They would be backing themselves in and kicking it. And you can see that even though we're getting better, which I don't doubt, and before anyone comes at me, I have no doubt this group of boys are learning and getting better. But to me, that is a prerequisite when you're a paid professional of any role. If you're taking a paycheck week in, week out, you're striving for betterness. And if you're not, I question why you're doing anything in life. Whether you're at KFC or whether you're a doctor, surely week on, week in, you should be looking to improve and character build. That is just being a human. But sometimes it just feels like they don't learn. And that was a bit like, the Melbourne game. It was a bit like the Geelong fourth quarter. When the pressure's applied, we kind of cling on. And Hawthorn just outcoached us, let's be honest. Like, I'm a big fan of Clarkson as a coach. I've never been a big fan of him as a human. But let's be honest, that was just a coaching masterclass. He did everything right. He freed up Tom Mitchell. He freed up Warple. He really utilised his wingers really well. Isaac Smith found a lot of the ball in open space. They really locked down that corridor ball of ours, which we'd like to do. It was becoming a real risk. They were really man-heavy in the corridor. And when we did go to the wings, they really did play it with tall timber and looked to make a contest on the ground, and we didn't adjust. And when you've got 61 intercepts to the opposition, you see why. James Sicily was looser than a bad porn actress at times in the defence, and he was just taking intercept marks at will, ad hoc. And once he finds the ball, as we discussed in Blue Abroad's analytic corner, it's a free flow for them. It's a knock-on effect. He does use the ball very well. And that was their issues the last couple of weeks. Entries inside 50, which were good this week, and exits out of defensive 50, and there was no defensive pressure. It was devoid. And at times, Carlton are kind of just. It's almost like, Carlton. You could sum them up as rising team pregnancy, because there is no plan B and we don't use it. And it's shocking at times. It's hard to watch. I mean, I feel like I'm a realist of where we are. I think we should be now around the 8. We should be a top 12 team bare minimum at this stage of the rebuild. And the reason is you look at the game time players have played. Just forget the age profile, because the age profile is warped. We've got pensioners on our list. you look at the actual game profile, it stacks up with everyone else. These young blokes have played a lot of games, and that's a credit to the system prior. We sacrifice results for experience. So we have to judge these guys on where they are in an education standpoint. You can't just go... It's kind of like, you know, that year 7 that was super bright, that got promoted to year 8, year 9. You can't judge them on their age level. You judge them on the application that they've shown, their experience, their ability. And if you judge them, that they don't have the footy smarts at times of players their age group. They really don't. And it's worrying, because some of them decision making, when it's coming from your older players, is worrying. Like Cripper's a very senior player, Murphy's a very senior player. And let's be honest, their decision making at times got us into a heap of trouble. Heap of trouble. It really did. I think you look as well at some of the systems that we play. Like for me, SPS at halfback, his job is to be that run, that injection. He's not a lockdown defender, and if he is, then we've made a complete balls up when we drafted him where we did, because he was drafted as a mid. And yeah, 180 metres made by foot doesn't cut it at this level. I mean, we'll give him his 45 degrees, little chip kicks, they are sweet as I'm not, but they don't provide anything when the goings gets tough. That there is set up for someone to break lines and really take the game on. Williamson does it quite a bit. Like, I was impressed that Williamson in the 3rd and 4th, when the chips were down, he looked to take the game on. Because for me, when we move the ball quicker, we are a better side. And at times we started to become stagnated. And I don't think that was a coaching structure. That's just, you know, you run home to mum status, I've stubbed my toe. You know, we went slow. We looked devoid of confidence. And we're very momentum based. And you can see it. And that's a worry at times. We don't create our own momentum. After a first quarter like that, I was starting to think, let's see where these boys are heart-wise. Do they have that ruthless mentality? And you look in sport, when you become a serial loser and you start winning, there's kind of that kind of compassion. And I see it in the fans, the compassion of you feel sorry for a side that's been hurt. I wanted to see, did we have that ruthlessness to really drive the dagger home? And cold hard facts, we didn't. For me, there was a lot riding on this game. Clarkson's completely cocked up the AFL with these coffees with Clarko. It's too whistle happy. There was Bolton there. So ex-coach, let's show them how good we are. Let's give Teague the standoff and show him that he's our coach and he gets the best out of us. There was a lot of micro stories to play out, and in the end, the only story we're talking about is Hawthorn and better than us. And I don't believe they're a better side than us. I don't. They're the dad's army. But I mean, I can't be on here a Carlton Ball's show and praise Hawthorn too much, but hats off to them. They outworked us, they outmuscled us, they outwilled us, they wanted it more. And that hurts, because to me, I believe, I know a lot of you don't believe, and for me, when I read they're learning, you don't believe they're good. That's how I take it, and I apologise if that's wrong, but to me, they're old enough, they're good enough, and I believe in better. And this was piss. This was weak. It was a weak performance. I don't like throwing that word around, but it was weaker than, you know, one of my pavlovas, I tell you, and I can't make a pavlova. I mean, let's go into some individual performances, but like I say, I mean, not much to talk about. Let's talk about David Cunningham. I mean, Cunningham, this is one of them games that we look to players like Cunners. And I do fear at times Cunners could fall into that downhill skiers category, that when we're going well, he looks the bollocks. And when we're not, he looks bollocks. There's a good little lesson for you. Pommies, we can say the same thing and mean total different things. But Cunners, yeah, he wasn't there. And that's the kind of game that you look for the injection. The injections, just a moment of magic, I think would have turned that game around, particularly in the third, at the start of the third. If we could have a moment of magic, I kept thinking, this can turn around quite quickly as it's turned around on them. But it wasn't there. It wasn't a great performance. I'm not unduly worried about Cunners at the moment, because I do believe he's a mercurial player. We're going to get 9s and then we're going to get 2s. And for me, I don't want him to be an average 6. I fear that if he suddenly became an average player, we'd have another player that we have a plethora of. A bit like Murphy now, it's kind of always a 6 out of 10. And I don't want that. I do want the X factor. For me, I believe in systems, and I believe for every one of his bad games, it just requires people to step up. But when he has a good game, he can turn a game. He won us a game only a week ago, so let's lay off him. Callum Moore, I don't see it. And in a way, I respect Teague that he gives people chances. I don't buy into if they wear blue, you've got to back them, because, I mean, if you support Rangers like me, we've had some trash run out for us. You can't do it. If you're good enough, you're good enough. And I don't see what he brings to the contest apart from that he can tap in the rug. But to me, that's Casboult's job. I understand the need to play 3 tolls from an aesthetic point of view and a tactical point of view, but is he it? Is he it? Because at the moment, the only justice I can see to include him in the team is that we've got too many clean skins. So we need a tattoo every so often. It's not... He doesn't bring anything to me. And I'm sorry if you disagree with me. Well, I'm not really. I don't care. But I don't see it. If someone can enlighten me in the comments, that would be great. If it's constructive, I'd love to know. SPS... It's like he's dining out on the Anthony McDonald Tipper Woody game. Based on watching Tipper was just pants against Carlton. And I don't see it. For me, I was looking at that and there was no rotations. The last couple of weeks we've rotated massively in the midfield. It's a great tactic because it sends chaos to people. And why is SPS not being rotated in the midfield? What am I missing? Because he's kicking, he's good. It's his defensive positioning that lets him down. So why isn't he getting a run in there? I don't go. It wasn't a great performance from SPS, and I would say now SPS has fallen into that category of why are you there and we're not giving someone else a chance. I do expect at least 2 changes next week, and I think he would be one of the guys that you would say is in due of a week off. Setfield, we can't be too hard on him because he's had 2 really good weeks, and obviously we've got to judge this guy as really a second-year player because that's what he is after these injuries. Wasn't great, didn't really impact the contest. He kind of got bullied, and I think everyone in the midfield got bullied, including Mr. Cripps. Wasn't great, but I back him to stand in. I would have liked to have seen Cripper utilised elsewhere on the ground, try and get his hands on the pill a bit more, try and influence something and let Setfield have the responsibility. I think he stood back and watched a lot. It was kind of like round 1 criticism. Why do it when Cripper does it? Plowman, not going to be too hard on him. He had a tough job. I mean, he was on Bruce most of the day. He did what he needs to do. It wasn't great though. But I mean, no one in the back line was really stand out. I think Wheaterin broke even. I'm not going to panic on him. I mean, it is interesting though when someone seems to sign a contract for this club, their next game is meh. I don't know what it is, but it wasn't great. Harry competed well. He took marks. Probably lacked, the goals he deserved. I have no idea why a key forward is handballing that off to an inside mid though. I mean, that is madness, man. Have some selfishness. It's the one position in sport when you are a forward that you don't care about the rest of you. Key forward, it's about chips yourself. It weren't great. I mean, he competed well. He did what he had to do. I mean, you've got to blame the midfield though because some of the entries, so that mark he took towards the death was just phenomenal. And that's the kind of crap McKay has to put up with. Booting the ball 90 metres in his air and hoping that he can take it. Willow, he competes well, and he's probably one of the few in the back line that I'm not going to be heavily critical of because he makes a contest, he makes it awkward, he makes it uncomfortable. And at times, there was a lot of times that I felt like we were being too comfortable. We were being very accommodating for Hawthorn because honestly, they're not that good. They're not that good. They're not as good as that. And the first quarter showed where they were, and we just didn't put the foot down. Sam Walsh, he kind of went anonymous in that game. They're just throwing the boot on it was back in abundance. He competed hard though. You look at the metres that he ran a lot of metres. We didn't find him. And whether that's him not getting into good enough positions, I wasn't at the ground so I've only got the camera. But you could see he was running, like every snapshot he's there doing this. Sam Walsh is one of the players that we need to impact games. He needs to find a way of getting his hands on the pill. If you watched Dylan Shield last week, he got absolutely smashed yesterday. And then the last quarter he had 7 touches. He finds the pill. Even though they lost, he finds a way to impact the game eventually and find the ball. Sam Walsh needs to learn that skill. Jackie Nooms, first quarter I was like this. I've been backing the boy in. great biceps, looks really good in a Guernsey, I've got to say. And you can't judge him too critically. He did his job well. He's really embracing this more forward advanced role. He looks dangerous. Eddie Betts, we needed a moment of magic from Betts, and although he tried, it just didn't happen. And you can see why the call for Tom Papley is coming, because you've got someone who's a very good exponent of his craft in Eddie, but Tom's just adds that other thing that Betts doesn't have. And it wasn't a great game. And the same can be said for Jones. He was very loose, and that is the way he plays. He plays back shoulder, and you're asking for trouble when you play back shoulder on forwards of that quality. I thought he was pretty comprehensively beaten. I gave him a big rap in the week, and I'm not going to be too harsh because the ball was coming in at will. When you're turning it over from your kicking defensive 50, you've got huge issues. Gibbons, it was a game really where I wanted to see Gibbons a lot more on the ball. We didn't really get to see it. He competed well, but again, I mean, questions again, like the forward pressure was weak from first quarter, and he's a big part of our forward pressure, and it just didn't get the job done. And I think when the department doesn't do it, you can't hold one person for praise. Simmer, I mean, he competed well, and it's what I'd expect of someone who's played 300 games of football. It's nothing to write home about though. Mark Murphy, I love Mark, but if he's not hitting targets and he's not helping the ball move, why is he there? Because his chase down ability is weak. Some of them, how he got isolated one-on-one inside defensive 50 blags my head. Because what was going on there? Like, when the ball comes in defensive 50 and you see Mark Murphy is freaking one-on-one with the guy about to mark it, you've got problems, man. And why isn't there a change? I mean, that's what I want to know. Why isn't the changes during games when we're getting our arse handed to us? It's alright changing it when they come back, but when they're running rampant like Hulk Hogan in the 80s at WrestleMania, change something. Levi Casbolt, well done mate, 3 goals, took them well. There was a lot in the press that his missus went to SeaWorld. It's turned out it wasn't him. So, I mean, to be fair, you can see why he played well, because if people started bagging my wife, I'd kick 3 snags and all. Pitner, well, I mean, he got battered, didn't he? My mate, I mean, he competed pretty hard. He tried to make a contest of it, but his midfield just weren't helping him out. There was a few times that, he stifled the clearance, but the midfielders just weren't up for it. Bam Bam, I wanted to see him a bit more in the midfield, just throwing his weight around. He looked really up for it in the first quarter. He kind of just fell away. Doc found the pill quite a lot. Didn't really do much. I mean, the metres gained were exemplary. But, I mean, it's a tough one. Wheater in, as usual. He probably won his battle at the end of the day. Doing his thing, Wheater's still our best player, I think, statistically, from round 1 to now. Just killing it. Jack Martin was... I really enjoyed Jack Martin's game. He was great. I mean, he's a player that I worry about, that when he's applying more defensive pressure than anyone else, and he's not known for that, we have problems, man, because he's not there for that. I mean, you're using a screwdriver to bash a hole into a hammer, nail into wood, hole into a hammer. That's how angry I am. And yeah, it's not great. He took his goals well, great little passages of play. He looks a real live wire. Ed Kerner, I mean, for me, I thought Ed did really well. It wasn't a real hard tag roll though, and Tom Mitchell was just finding space at will in the second half. I'm not too sure why he wasn't on him. And I watched the footage back just now. He wasn't on him in the second half. Like, Tom was moved and we didn't adjust. And I find that weird and mind-boggling, because once Tom Mitchell, like I said, he's not damaging per se. And big shout out to Fallen Sports. I felt like he was getting a bit agitated with what I was saying. Huge respect to Hawthorn, you did well, but I know he was a big defender. I still don't think Tom Mitchell destroys you, but how he destroys you is what he did today. He gets the ball a lot, he sets people up, he makes that play happen, and I was surprised Ed went on him. And Cripper, I mean, when you look at, I wonder sometimes how we judge players. Do we judge them on fantasy points or in real life? Because to me, yeah, okay, he had a lot of the ball. Okay, he got a lot of fantasy points. But did he destroy Hawthorn? Because I don't think he does, and I don't know if he's injured, but he looks slow and arborous. And he's lost weight, and he seems to now be less effective in the contest, but somehow slower. Now, I've lost 30 kgs. I can tell you I'm faster. That's worked the opposite with him. And I just don't know it. His decision making, I mean, I enjoy the fact he wants the ball and try and make things happen, because there is, without a doubt, he is a player who can make something happen. But it just didn't happen for him, did it? I mean, you had them 2 goals, you had that goal in. It's a different ballgame. We've got a bit closer. We were on top at that point and probably didn't deserve to be. We were starting to enter inside 50 a little bit easier. I'm not going to be too heavily critical on him, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't a great performance. Let's be honest. It wasn't the performance that you stand up. And for me, we're looking to our captains for that. You're looking for your leaders. And when they're doing stuff like that and making bad calls, it does rub off on them. I mean, don't get me wrong, both him and Ed conspired for 8 clearances each. That's really good football. But just, it was good under pressure. That's what I'm saying. Cripps and Kerner were brilliant when our backs were to the walls, but it was for defensive work. And the last couple of weeks we've seen them set up our attacks and transition. And you are going to get good clearance numbers. You are going to get good tackle numbers when you're getting your arse handed to you. You are. See review round 1, when I was critical that no one had good defensive numbers. These guys did, but we were getting battered. There was opportunities. All in all, it was piss poor, and I don't think I'm angry. I don't think I'm sad. I just think I'm empty, man. Because these boys are better than this, man. They're better than that shit. And now we've got a week off, and we've got to somehow work out how you beat the Eagles, and the Eagles are probably going to run riot tonight. Please, guys, let me know how you guys see it, because I'm at a loss. I could do with a kiss and a cuddle, to be honest. I'm at a loss. I'd love to hear what you guys and girls think of the game. Who are your key performers? For me, I'll give you my 3-2-1 on the Blue Abroad Show live on Monday at the usual time at Shad Daddy's place. I look forward to seeing you guys there. Huge thank you to all you who support me on Pommyinoz. Enjoy your football for the next 20 days. Pom out.